Today, we are going to learn about me. I'm going to introduce you to professional instructional design concepts. I'm going to be teaching you how the pros get it done using a project management system called ADDIE. And I'm going to explain that all to you, but this is how professional instructional designers create courses. And I'm going to give you an outline that applies to any course that you want to create. Okay. Somebody keeps trying to call me. Okay.
Hello.
One second. Oh, okay. Now I know how to advance my slides. Okay, so if you look in the offers section, you will see that every single person here can get a free 20-minute consultation with me. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why I want you to do it, but it's for me and not for you, honestly, but also it's for you. So I need your help to improve this course, and we'll talk about this later. Thank you so much. Oh, hi, Melissa. It's nice to see you. Okay, so let's get started. First, I'm going to talk with you about my business, Get a Bigger Boat. So I'm Suzanne Doolin. I'm the founder of Get a Bigger Boat. My superpower is that I am great at making difficult concepts easy to understand. And my other superpower is that I can help people figure out their niche markets because I'm really good at seeing what business ideas and customers make people light up inside. I teach yoga, I teach people how to teach, and I teach people business startup skills. The problem I help people solve is how to create a professional training system that they feel in full integrity to sell at an appropriate price. And you teach people how to create videos. That's right. Melissa took my course that I gave last year on getting started making helpful videos, and she started up a cooking channel. Which is very cool. Melissa, if you put a link to your channel or just let people know what to look for, it's on YouTube. People can find it. Okay, so none of the people that I work with are driven by a desire to get rich. They love to share their knowledge and they do it for free. And in fact, most of them have done it for free for years. And that is how they know that you really can't be a professional until it literally is your profession to teach. And so this is the nut that people are trying to crack is, how do I do something that I would give away for free and actually make a living at it so that I can truly be a professional and do all the kind of courses I dream of creating? Thank you. And we have Susan on, who is a yoga teacher. So my business started with yoga. Yoga is my lifelong passion. I began studying when I was 19 years old. 10 years later, I became a yoga teacher. However, my first training program felt like it was missing something. It wasn't the transformative experience that I expected. In 1998, the World Wide Web was in its infancy, and I found the teachings of this man who's on the screen, Eric Schiffman, online on a little tiny website that blinked, and somebody had done a sort of a fan website. And Eric was on the discussion board on that website. So even though he was in LA and I was in the Washington, D.C. at the time, we were able to get to know each other, which was very new. I eventually took over that discussion board, and with Eric as the star power and me as the geek, we grew that discussion board to the largest and longest online discussion board related to yoga. We've had over 2 million hits on the current software, and I would say probably over the lifetime of it, we probably had about 5 million hits on the software, on the discussion board. It's called the Moving into Stillness Discussion Board. So I am a freedom yoga teacher, which means that I'm one of a handful of people personally authorized by Eric to teach yoga. The focus of my teaching is to help yoga practitioners become disciplined in their home practice and get to where they know yoga in their bones, which means that it becomes effortless and completely natural for them and how they can be creative in their practice. And then I help you create a sustainable living teaching yoga. Compassion is the most important part of my practice, and we're going to be talking about compassion today. Because of my unique situation, I spoke to yoga teachers all over the world for years. I know the yoga world in a way that very few other people do. I know advanced teachers who do something that nobody else does, like Yanti, who teaches martial artists yoga, and she's an advanced martial artist and she's a yoga teacher. Or Dia, who teaches yoga to help medical professionals who are burned out get some rest and relaxation. There's just nobody else like them. And so how do they make a living at it when they don't fit into somebody else's system? This is what people were struggling to figure out. And they were always seeking somebody else's system to fit into, and it didn't occur to them to create their own system. But it occurred to me because I'm a professional online course creator. I am an instructional designer. So for 5 years, I had as my primary career creating instructional design courses for engineering. So Steve, I actually was doing exactly what you're doing, designing tech courses. But I worked with Zebra Technologies. They create barcode scanners. I wasn't originally an instructional designer. So prior to that, for about 20 years, I was an instructional designer. I mean, I was a technical writer, like somebody else who was here said they are creating courses about writing. I do that. Hi, Loretta. It's nice to see you. I'm going to mark that as answered. So as an instructional designer, I was, first of all, so I wasn't classically trained as an instructional designer. What happened was they needed a geek. And I'm so geeky that I could understand really advanced tech. And they trained me on the job in the skills to be an instructional designer. All of my coworkers had like their masters in instructional design, and they taught it to me. As I was learning instructional design, like my light bulb starts going off, like this is what we weren't taught in my yoga teacher training program. We weren't taught how to design our own training, which is what I think I expected to learn, but didn't know how to articulate. And I started to see that I could apply the skills that I was learning to my own course and help other teachers to do that as well. So I'm really proud that today I have helped Dia to create her Rest and Renew program for medical professionals. I have helped Yanti create her Shota Flow yoga course for martial artists. That's something I'm really, really proud of doing because that was my dream. But before I was able to leave the corporate world, I had to start up my own business. And I didn't have any business skills. So I won't say I didn't have any, but I didn't recognize that. Hi, Myra. It's wonderful to have you here, Myra, as one of my business coaching clients and yoga friends. I've identified a niche and still struggling to find a way to reach my people, but I'm not giving up. Myra is an inspiration. She has really worked hard. Okay, so where am I? Okay, so what happened was I'm in engineering and I don't have an engineering degree. I had a philosophy undergrad degree and I felt like I was stuck in engineering. And I also felt like I didn't really have a way to make a business in yoga because I talked to yoga teachers all over the world and none of them were making a living at it from what I could see, except for Eric. So I went back to school to get my master's in engineering management. And I didn't know it, but that's a degree in entrepreneurship. It's not a degree, a technical degree, it's a degree more like an MBA. So while I was getting my master's program, my master's degree in engineering, I was aided by the head of the department to start up my yoga business, which has turned into Get a Bigger Boat. I'm a certified digital marketing expert, and I help people start up businesses, specifically teaching-based businesses. I mainly work with people who are in the wellness space, but not exclusively. So what I do is a little complicated, but I think everybody here has a little piece of this. So this is something I would love to get your opinion on when we talk in those 20 minutes. But what I do is I help people to align their sales and marketing funnels with their curriculum. And what that does for you is it makes it possible for you to spend more time teaching and less time selling, because what you're doing is you have a clear offer for each person as they go through your system. You take them up just training levels, increasing their education, and all you have to do is teach. And in fact, the way you market is just by teaching. Like literally, this is my marketing. I'm teaching right now. There's an open question. Let me check it. Marshawn says, I'm here. Oh, okay. Thank you. I'm just going to mark that as answered, Marshawn. Okay. I just want to check my notes. Yeah. So basically what I'm doing is I'm helping you retain customers and retain students. And the advantage of it is that what happens is that you don't have to spend so much time selling, because you're just keeping people in your program and selling to the same people. But the other thing is that you're developing those students that are really into you. And that's what every teacher dreams of, is to have those students whose lives you change, and you have to move them through the system. In my experience, the biggest problem is people have the advanced material and they don't know how to do that step number 2, get the early learners in. And that's really what I help people with the most. Selling is education. Yes, that's correct. Selling is education. And that is really the heart of my business, is that you don't have to be a sleazy salesman. You don't have to pimp yourself out. All you have to do is teach, and teach at an appropriate level for your learners. So I have a process for business startup, and this is just based on everything I went through starting my business, all the courses that I took, and I sort of saw that I didn't really like that in business startup. It's not giving you what to focus on when. So I created this 6 business process model, which means that you create these steps in your business in order. So the first thing is you start your business up. That's the executive process. You get your permits and all, your legal infrastructure. Then you have products or services. Okay, I'm going to back up. Everything in your business is about making money. And this is the problem for my customers. They want to give it away, but they also know that if they don't have money, that they're going to go out of business. So this is how you make money in your business, and this is what all the steps relate to. So the first thing is you got a business, now you need something to sell. And that's your training design, which is what we're going to talk about today. Then you need to sell it directly to people. You'll learn who your customers are without losing your shirt, because you're bringing cash into your business without spending money. Then you need to make good on your promises and deliver your teaching. And then once you have a lot of money, you start counting that money in accounting. It's really good to be ethical in handling money. And then the last stage is to develop the marketing process, because marketing is expensive and risky. But once you know who your customers are because you sold, then you can start to reach them. And like Mai was saying, I'm trying to figure out how to reach them. She's been working on it for a long time. It takes a while to figure that out. So don't spend a ton of money on Facebook ads before you know who those people are. Just start talking to people and selling it. So today we're working on that second process, the product or service development process, so that you have something to sell. Finally, I'm done talking about myself and we can get into the material. So I have these learning objectives for you, which are all broken up in the title of the course. I'm going to teach you how to build your signature online course like a pro. So you can read the slide and see all that, but the main thing that we're going to be learning is some key terms from instructional design. There are forms. Just go to the offers and hit the ones that say download and grab those forms. They are very important to this. So I recommend every single person download these forms right now. Please let me know if you have any problems downloading them. I was up late last night moving, and there's a couple of things I haven't tested. So please let me know that the downloads worked. That will be really useful to me. And also right now, if anybody has any questions or comments, we're getting ready to reset and start moving into the information about instructional design. Perfect. Thank you, Steve. Thank you so much. I'm so happy that I have another geek here to help me out with this. Okay, so right now we're not going in sequence with the whole title. So today, right now, we're talking about key terms in instructional design. And I was thinking about this, what's the difference between a pro and an amateur? To me, the difference between a pro and an amateur is a pro knows how to fix their mistakes. And an amateur gets a little stuck with how do I get out of a mistake? So a pro is just somebody who screwed up a lot more and has figured out some ways to handle that with some grace and doesn't get lost in it. What is instructional design? Instructional designers develop training programs for all age ranges on all topics. They apply the principles of how people learn best to shape a lesson, a course, or a complete curriculum. Instructional designers started in World War II when they needed to train all these soldiers who were drafted into the Army and the armed services. It was literally a matter of life and death that these people learn well. After the war, there was the need for a more educated workforce. And so the people who started up instructional design during the war then went on to take that information out into the workforce, so helping corporations design training programs. Since then, that instructional design has really grown to a large field. They study how people learn best by observing people, adult learners, children. Like when I was at Tulane, which is where I went for my undergrad degree, they had a kindergarten on site, like a nursery, and the education majors would actually study. They would run like tests or whatever, what do you call it? They would do like studies on the children to test out different theories of learning. So it's been around since World War II. It's been studied really well, how people learn best. Okay, but what does it mean to learn? Learning is a struggle and knowledge is innate. So the process of learning is a very slow and arduous process, but once you know it, it becomes instinctive to you. So let's say, for example, with driving, you probably remember, being 16 years old or 15, whenever you learned to drive, and your mom or dad could like put their arm on the door, have one hand on the steering wheel, and fiddle with the radio and hold a conversation with you and drive. And then when you started learning to drive, you had to put your hand at the 10 and the 2. You had to figure out which was the gas and which was the brake, and you stuttered around the block. So that is learning. Learning is, like taking those steps that are sort of painful to get started. Knowledge is when you learn how to drive. So I bet now that most of you, when you drive, that you kind of can tune out and you can put on the radio and you can have one arm on one elbow on the door. That is because you now have knowledge. It's innate in you. It's a skill. You don't have to think about it. So this is from Clueless, by the way, one of my favorite movies, when they go out onto the freeway and this like student driver is out on the LA freeway and they're like petrified. So if you've seen the movie, let me know, because I want to know if that's like something that communicates to people at all, because I love this movie, but I don't know if like everyone's familiar with it. A good teacher is someone thanks, Madison. A good teacher is someone who understands the struggle of learning and gains the trust of their students. And your role as a teacher is to take people through the struggle. The struggle is hard, right? So your role is to let people know, hey, I have taught a whole lot of other people, and you're exactly where I expect you to be right now, compared to other people I've taught. You are doing just great. Or, you can give them some perspective on the struggle, because everyone wants to give up on the struggle. The struggle sucks, Oops, I have an open question. Loretta says that she can't see the forms. They're in the offers section. So let me just double check my notes and make sure that I'm giving you all the information. So your job is to remind them of where they started and where they are now, because they can't see that. And it's to create a relationship of trust so that they're willing to take some risks, to go through the embarrassment, the pain, the frustration of learning to achieve, so they can get to that light bulb moment where it all clicks. One of the most important observations of instructional design is that this process, this struggle, follows known steps, and that every single person follows the same steps. So I don't care if you are a NASCAR driver now. You started out with your hands at the 10 and the 2, trying to figure out which was the brake and which was the gas. And there is no way around it. And we know what these steps of learning are. And this is what's so important, so critical to actually creating a full curriculum and creating learning that really connects with your learners. We'll be talking more about the specifics of that in this webinar. Okay. What's the difference between teaching and marketing? I'm going to take a sip of water. The big difference between teaching and just giving out information is testing. The test isn't for the students. Well, I mean, it is, but really the test is for you. And that's why I'm telling everyone, go to the offers and get a 20-minute call with me. It's not for you. It's for me. I need help improving this. This is my first time teaching it. And I really would love your help to make it better. And I'd love to help you out by learning more about what you're doing and how I can help, you get started on it. Thanks, Jordan. Hi, thanks for joining. Yeah, that's okay. No problem. And by the way, everybody, The webinar will be available on replay for the next week. So you'll have access to the first part of it, Jordan. Thank you so much for joining, even though it was a little late. Okay, so one of the biggest problems for adult educators is that we sort of associate testing with standardized tests, like I'm showing here, a bubble test. But there's lots of ways to test your learners. Like for me, I'm just going to have talk with hopefully a few of you will take me up on that offer, and I'll be able to talk with you and get a sense of whether you learned what I intended to teach. So you can observe people, like if you're teaching something, you can just watch. But if you want to know what you're looking for, and so that you know whether people are learning what you planned. And that's really the biggest difference between teaching and marketing. I have a few clients who come and they kind of get stuck in this marketing mode, and they don't get feedback from their students, and then they don't really feel very connected to their students. Okay. There are 3 domains of learning: cognitive, psychomotor, and behavioral. When we work with adult learners, often we are not working with the cognitive domain, but psychomotor and behavioral. So the cognitive domain is book learning, and that's what we all did in school. The psychomotor domain is like what I teach, yoga. It's a physical skill. It's driving. That's the psychomotor domain. Behavioral is adopting habits. And I actually learned about the behavioral domain because my stepson, Adam, he was a special needs child. And we would every year sit down with his home. He lived in a home, and create learning goals for him. And they didn't look like learning goals for school. We've had learning goals for him, like he'd be able to press a button to ask to go outside, or he'd be able to eat without crumbling his food. And other people in his home had goals like they'll be able to sit next to me without getting all up in my personal space. Those were goals in the behavioral domain. And you can use them. You don't have to be special education to do that. It's for all kinds of learners, and we actually know how people acquire those habits. So if you're teaching a course where you're helping people to acquire habits, then what you want to look at is the behavioral domain. I'll be talking about that more shortly. For the person who said they're creating sewing courses, you are also in the psychomotor domain, teaching people to understand this muscle memory of sewing. And almost everybody is always also teaching the cognitive domain, teaching people information along with these other domains of learning. Your signature course. Now we're moving on. Please let me know if you have questions. I am reading the comments. This is an actionable webinar. If you have not gone to the offers and downloaded those files, they will help you to get started. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a course that can sell. And so you need to figure out what your signature course is. A signature course introduces people to your business, and it differentiates you from your competition. It speaks directly to the people that you want to reach. So for example, Melissa took my course in getting started making helpful videos. When I started out my business, I really kind of wanted to talk to yoga teachers about business skills because I kind of felt like that's what they really needed to know. And over time, I learned yoga teachers aren't that interested, like they are interested in business, but they're not going to take a course in it. So what they want to do is they want to build a thing. So that's why I teach courses like getting started making helpful videos, getting started making an online course, because that's what my learner is looking for first. And then hopefully as they learn more about what I can offer, then they start getting interested in the other things. But the first step is to meet them where they're at. And then also the courses that I build and that you should build are the ones that really nobody else could create. It's not important. that you be the only one in the market with a course like this. What is important is that people understand what you uniquely have to offer. It's actually quite difficult to sell a course that no one else is selling. I have a client who has this problem, and a lot of my clients actually have this course because you have to basically tell people what your market is, and they're not looking for it. So having competition is a good thing. If you sell something like computer skills, yeah, there's a million people out there doing it, but there's someone out there who really needs to learn it from you. And that's what your course is, trying to figure out how to reach those people. And also, by the way, and how not to reach the people who aren't your learners. That is to say, if somebody takes your online course and they watch it and they're not very interested in it, great. You don't want to spend your time with people who aren't your customers. So the signature course helps the people who are meant to study with you select in, and the people who aren't opt out. Okay. Okay. Here's some things I would recommend. I talked about this being actionable. Get 5 people who are like the people that you want to talk to, and ask them, have this open-ended conversation where you listen and ask them about whatever, related to sewing, related to writing a nonfiction book. What are you doing currently? What problem do you have? You're trying to write let's say a book. You're trying to write a book, right? Okay, what have you done so far? Have you written a draft? Have you written an outline? Where are they at? And then why are they stuck? What's the problem that's sticking them from going further? And here I will say people will talk about their problems forever, but this next question is the one to really listen to. If you could wave a magic wand, and it's very important to say something like this, like in a magical world, so they don't get stuck on the problems, and you could now have the skill that you need or that you dream of having. Let's say, for example, book writing, right? If you could wave a magic wand and your book were written, what would that feel like? What would you have accomplished? And that question is generally very hard for people to answer. But that is really the heart of what you want to learn, is that promise. And then figuring out how you can help people take a little baby step through the obstacle to get to that vision. And you want to ask them what the obstacles are. Generally, the obstacles are time and money, but it's kind of good to know where that obstacle is so you can price it or think about how you adjust, because people usually have really big ideas that people are going to, spend months and months learning with them. And most people, adult learners, don't want to spend months learning. Okay, so today what I'm going to be teaching you is how to deliver a draft course, your beta course by Zoom, and or a similar software like this one. So this is, first of all, I'm going to back up. The reason that I'm teaching you how to do it by Zoom is that what you want to do is have that feedback from live learners. Now, eventually, I would love for you to take your course and host it on a learning management system, such as Teachable, Udemy. If you are looking at software like this, would you let me know? Because I'm kind of curious to know if people are interested in knowing more about these systems that are out there. Kajabi is another one that's very popular. Let me know which one you're looking at. But eventually, I would love for you to get your signature course recorded so that you can then automate your marketing and automate the process of gaining new learners into your business. Okay, now let's get into the meat of it, the ADDIE process. ADDIE is a project management process Come back up. Slide away on 28. Okay. So recently I had a friend who wrote and published a book. And what an accomplishment. Like, I was really involved with that process, and he worked very hard on it. And then he was done and he had the book published. And afterward, he said to me, now I have to write the book I intended to write. He didn't really feel very satisfied with what he had created. That happens with a lot of projects. Everyone feels a little let down at the end. Every project that I've been on, it started with a big dream, and then we ended up with something less than the vision. So remember, I said that the only difference between professionals and amateurs is that amateurs don't know how to screw up, and professionals know how to handle it. Well, project management is a way for you to manage your expectations so that you don't feel so disappointed at the end, and you also kind of know how to hew a little closer to the dream so that you don't just end up completely off track. Okay, this slide is out of order. So let's talk about a project you might be involved in right now, which is making a costume. Is anybody making a costume for their kid or for themselves for Halloween? Skillshare, yes. Udemy and Teachable, they seem to be the giants in the e-course world. Yeah, Udemy and Teachable are also very popular. I have a client who uses Teachable. It's great. Udemy is, they tend to keep the prices very low, which I don't recommend. I'm not going to get into pricing, but that's a problem. A professional costume designer, right, Susan? Okay, so tell me what you're going to be for Halloween or what your kid's going to be for Halloween. So let's talk about, I know, this slide deck is a different version of it. It's okay, this is good enough. Okay, so let's talk about the process of making a costume. So my daughter, she did a Cruella de Vil costume, and many years ago. And up on the screen, I have put our process for creating that costume. So the first thing was we had 11 days. Right now, if we were to start now, it'd be 11 days to Halloween. So, okay, I can't sew like Susan can. So that's out, right? So it's we're going to buy it because we don't have time to order it. And then, of course, I'm thinking as an adult that, I want to make sure she's safe and comfortable, and I don't want to lose my shirt buying all these things because, my daughter, she's very creative. She would create a full-on Disney costume if I had endless bucks, but I don't. So I didn't have a lot of time. I didn't have a lot of money, and that constrained the project. The dream was to make that Disney character come to life, and we decided as we started planning it that, given the fact that she had school and that we didn't have a lot of time, that we would need to buy elements at a thrift store and then go to the party store and see what else we could get. So then when we actually went shopping, of course, what we found at the thrift store sort of shifted things a little bit, the idea. And we also had to go out and paint the wig to get the two colors. On Halloween day, on Halloween day, she got dressed up, she put lipstick on, she had fun, she got candy, she got to feel creative. And we had a great time. And that's, the whole thing that we were building the costume for. And then finally, afterward, I was frick, 11 days is a really short time to create a costume. Enola Holmes. Oh, cool. Jeddah and the Cheshire Cat. We have such a bunch of geeks on. I love it. And then so just at the end of it, it's just right on the calendar for next year. Hey, maybe get started at the beginning of October next year. So this is basically very similar to the ADDIE method of project management. which stands for Analyze, Design, Develop, Implement, and Evaluate. These are the steps that professional course creators use to get through the course creation process. So when we talked about like, hey, we have 11 days, we have $100, what's the point? Like, we want her to have fun. If my kid were the kind of person who just wanted to slap on a costume and get some candy, God, that would have made my life so much easier. But it's about like, what's the objective? Start with the why. Yes, I'm going to put Marcus answered. Yes, Steve said it. It's like Simon Sinek says, start with the why. Find people who believe what you believe. Absolutely. So that is true. You need to start with like, why the heck am I creating this? And if you don't have that like front and center from the get-go, you can get really lost because, everybody wants to add the kitchen sink in, and you've got to start to whittle it down. So the next thing is, what would I like people to be able to do at the end of the course? And I'm going to show you precisely how you figure that out. So that was like basically at the point of the design stage where we're thinking about, like what are we sort of going to try to do? You're sort of roughing it out. It's similar to a rough draft of a book for people who write instructional books. Develop. So how do I get everything done? So you have your plan, and then you've got to go out and build your videos, build your slides, all this stuff. And that's going to be time consuming, and that's really the bulk of the time. The point of the analyze and design stage is to help you to spend less time in development because you've really thought it through. So once you get your course materials, basically, at the Chattery, yes, I teach at the Chattery. So once you do the analyze and design stage, then you start building your course materials, your slide decks, your videos, whatever it's going to be, your handouts. And then you implement it. That's Halloween day. That's what it feels like to teach. And then, and we'll talk about some ways to teach effectively. And then finally you stop and you say, what could I have done better? And how can I improve it? It's really important to recognize that this process implies that you are not done at the end, that you are always getting ready to make the course better. And that's what professionals do. They don't see, I'm going to create my course and it's a win or a fail. It's, I'm going to make my course and then I'm going to see how I can improve it, and I can keep on improving it and making it better. It's never really done. Another thing that I wanted to, I somehow loaded up just a slightly older slide deck, which is fine. But one thing that I didn't get to show you was my daughter in her outfit. So let me just see if I can find that for you. Cancel. Because I want to talk a little bit about this, because I'm trying to get everybody to really like, okay, crap. Okay, I'm not going to be able to find it. And remind me, I'll email it to you. She had a great costume, but the thing was that we were able to take a picture of her in her costume in front of a yard, and it was, do you know these people? They had like 5 inflatables in the yard and a graveyard, and then they handed out like the full-size candy bars, that house. And, those people had a whole other project going on. And when they were all excited to see Maddie in her costume and all the little kids, and we were so excited to see what they did. Halloween day, the day that you teach, that's Halloween day. That's the fun part. It's about everybody having a good time and not about, so what if maybe we didn't have the right shoes? So what if the process was a little messy? If we all went out and had a great time together, that's my big goal of teaching, is everybody have a good time. And so like, keep focused on the fact that like, no matter if it's not perfect or all you dreamed of, that you like, it's really important to actually get to Halloween day. It's really important to do it. Okie doke. Okay. And okay, let me just switch this for a second, because I do have this slightly different deck. Oops. Okay, cool. So now you can see me a little bit. Okay, so there was a slide that isn't in this deck that I want to talk about, which is ADDIE is what's called the waterfall method. And the waterfall is a method of project management where you imagine that there's a series of waterfalls that you go over. Now, every time you go over a waterfall, you're done. You cannot go back up the waterfall. So there's a series of stages. So in ADDIE, each of these analyze, design, develop, implement is a point where you're done with that stage and then you go on to the next stage, like a series of waterfalls. And this is also called a gate process. And the gate process is basically imagine there's a gate in front of the waterfall holding you back. You're in your boat, you're getting ready to go over the waterfall. And it's like, are we ready to go over the waterfall? Or are we going to lose somebody? Is it everybody safe? And if you feel like you're ready, then you say, okay, open the gate. And then you're done and you can't go back. So the whole point of doing this is to keep you moving forward because everyone will get stuck in a stage if you don't sort of go, look, we have a deadline that we have to meet and it's in 3 months. And the way you get that deadline is get some learners, get some people and sell them the course. When I worked in engineering, I worked on lots of teams that made lots of products. And almost every single one of those products got out the door. They didn't get out the door what we dreamed of, none of them, but they all got out the door because I worked for companies that needed to make money. And they sold people stuff. And if it wasn't perfect, then we, had relationships with customers where we'd, like sort of find a way to work with them so that they felt satisfied. But it didn't stop us from delivering because we needed to make money and they needed our help. And even if it wasn't perfect, it was good enough. So going through these stages in sequence is very useful for helping you get to the end. At each step of the process, you have a way to evaluate that you're done, and then you release and say, okay, I did a great job on that stage, and now we're on to the next stage. Okay, any questions? And we have 8 more minutes, and I am not going to blow through the 400 other slides that I have. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the remainder of the ADDIE process, and then I'm going to wrap it up and give you a chance to ask questions. Okay. So if you have questions, now is the time to start asking them so that I can be sure to answer them before we get done. Okay, so at the analyze stage, oh, thank you. Bye, Belle. Thanks for coming. So at the analyze stage, this first gate, this first waterfall that you're going over, you're going to remember how for the Halloween costume, there were some things my daughter wanted and some things I wanted, like safety. So you have these are where you're looking at the constraints on the project, and there's constraints from the learner and constraints for yourself as the person doing it. So for your students, you want to know who they are, what materials they're going to have, like do they all have computers? Do they all have cell phones? That sort of changes how you deliver things. And most importantly, what is their level of learning? What training have they had previously? When can they take it? How long do they have? Where are they located? A lot of my learners are actually all over the world, and that's sort of driven a lot of my course creation because I realize I need to host it up on Skillshare, Udemy, or Teachable so that people can take it in their own time. And then why is it important? And that's really important, is to think about what does your learner, like, what's important for them. For my daughter at Halloween, she loved being creative and expressing her creativity. And so, compared to the kid who wanted to go out and get candy, our big goal was, the costume itself. And so that made me spend a little more money and a little more time on it. Well, not more time, but more money. and be more have it be more involved. So then you also want to ask yourself, like, who else is involved in planning this? Like maybe you need other people to help you with the videos or to help you with graphics, and you need to think a little bit about how you're working with them. The most important thing that you can figure out at the analyze stage is, what does the course not cover? And that's called scope. And if you really sort of go like, I'm going to teach this, like let's say you're teaching sewing. I'm going to teach people how to hand sew, but I'm not going to teach them how to sew on a machine. When you sort of go like early on, like I'm not teaching that, is super, super useful because it sort of immediately limits things. What are your project milestones? So if you've got to deliver your course in 3 months or a month, like what things need to get done ahead of that to stay on track? What do you need to do at week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4? Where will I be? What resources will I have? And the most important thing is, why is this important to my business? It's very important that you think about financially. Why is this important to your business? Because if you see this is something that should really make the difference in my business, then that makes it like a little, like if it's important to you to get it done, you're going to get it done. And like make yourself see how important it is. Okay, I have 2 open questions. What do I think of Vimeo? Loretta, I have not used Vimeo, but a lot of people use it. For me personally, I found it was kind of pricey. But if you know that you're going to use it, because it's like $30 a month to get just the basic level. So if you know you're going to use it, then I think it's worth it. And it seems fairly easy for you to use and other people to use. But you can use YouTube for free. And all you have to do is upload it as it's not private. It's only with the link that you can share it. It's not visible to all of YouTube. And I like that because everybody knows how to use YouTube. And also it's free. Oops. Oh, okay. I'm kind of learning this software as I go along. Okay, Melissa says, which is better to do, a video online course that's pre-recorded or a live course where people can ask questions? It's better to start with a live, and after you've run it a few times and you see that you can successfully deliver it, then you want to record it. How do you feel about flipped classrooms? Yeah. Can you actually talk a little more about what you mean by a flipped classroom? I've heard the terms, but I'm not as I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. So if you can just answer the question again. Okay, I'm going to move forward with this. All right, so we have 3 more, and we've only gotten through analyze. So I am just going to quickly take you through the design. So what would you like your students to? So at this stage, what you're going to do is you're going to take the project charter, you're going to fill it out. Once it's filled out, you're going to sign it, and you're going to say, this is it. I'm done. Release the gates. We're going forward. So then you're going to do the design stage. And what you're thinking about then is, what would I like my learners to be able to do? And when we have these 20 minutes, I'm going to teach you how to write learning objectives for your particular course. And then I will help you. So please sign up for that 20 minutes. It's in the offers. And I will help you to design it specifically to your learner and what they need to learn. Once you have identified it and created a rough outline, then you want to sort of, have a way to sign off on it. And I recommend that you have a colleague take a look at your outline, your ideas, talk it through with you. And then at that point, you can go through the gate and go on to the next stage. But don't get stuck in the design because it will change. People will put in way too much information and they'll overwhelm their learners with information. So it's the most important thing with the design process is to make sure that you've got it at the right level. Okay, Steve said asynchronous reading and perhaps activity. Oh, yeah. Okay. So Steve, the flipped classroom model, we have done that when I was at Zebra. We did the flipped classroom, and it's wonderful. And you can do more higher level material in that format online. But I'm trying to get people to sort of look at some lower level material to get started. Okay. I'm going to finish up these last two. So this slide deck is kind of annoying me, and I'm just going to stop I'm going to stop it because this is where my slide deck is way off of what my plan was. So analyze, design, develop, and develop. You're going to use the Gagne's 9 events of instructions to outline your course. It's in the handout. You can follow it, but it's an outline that works for every single course. So write your outline following that, and then you're going to implement the course. That's Halloween day. You're going to go and you're going to teach. Have fun. Don't worry about not getting to it. My slide deck has 20 more slides in it. We're not getting to it. I don't care. I hope we all had fun. Like, everybody participated. It was great. I hope you learned. There's no point in me trying to blow through all the slides in 5 more minutes, when you can't absorb it. So let's just teach what you have to teach. And then, celebrate afterward because you really accomplished something. Go out to dinner a week later after you've absorbed it and think, wow, I did that. That's really important to celebrate. And then finally, at the end, you want to wrap up your project. Remember, get all those files while they're still in your head, organize them so you can, in the future, go back and figure out what they were. And then also take a look at, like, however you tested people and notice where people were struggling and then the things that worked, so that when you come back to it and redo it, that you can sort of plan for how you improve it. Did a lot of research on YouTube versus Vimeo. Vimeo is a little higher end. Yes, it is. Vimeo is a little higher end. And all I'm going to say is just wait until you've tried it in a cheap way. And then, see if your learners like video before you invest in all those capabilities. People get really overwhelmed. I have like clients who have invested in things like Kajabi, and they are so overwhelmed trying to learn the tech. And it's like, who cares? Go on Zoom, go on, make a YouTube video, try to sell that because everybody can figure it out. And then you can start figuring out that additional tech, those additional features, they're a benefit, but they're also the obstacle because you've got to figure out all those techie things. And also you've got to support it because not everybody understands how to use all those features. So now you're the tech support. And that's why I recommend start with some YouTube because everyone knows how to use it and you're not stuck, being the tech support person. Every time you go into specific technology, people have to learn how to use it. Or like a session, yes. If you want a second session on this, as Myra's saying, then please email me, or when we're in that 20-minute session, let me know, and I will deliver the remainder of these slides and help you build it. Steve says he has a template, and yes, I would love to have that template that you built off of Gagne's 9 events of instructions. It's been wonderful. I really hope that all of you, Steve, I would particularly love to talk with you. It seems like, you'd be a great colleague to me. And all of the people here, please take advantage of the offer. Please, I am looking to improve this. This is something I want to teach. And just so you know, let me stop answering. Just so you know, I made this my deadline. Last night, I was up until 4 a.m. moving my apartment from one apartment to the other. But I'm here, and I made it through. It's not perfect, but it happened. And now I've got one version of this done. And after I talk with you guys and I learn more, I'm going to do another version of it. And then I'm going to sell this. So you don't have to sell it. But if you give yourself a deadline like Startup Week, some way or another, you're going to get it done. And that is the takeaway of everything. Go, have the tools, but get it done. Thanks so much, Melissa. Thanks for coming. I'm so glad you did come. And Melissa's going to do an online cookie decorating class. So that would be awesome. And thank you so much. So we're winding up. As you saw, my slides were a wreck. And, it wasn't a perfect thing, but I hope everybody learned. And I'm so grateful that you came today. I really appreciate you trying something new with me. And I hope you all have a happy Halloween. Bye, Steve. So I'm going to stop the broadcast. Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Yay. Oh, yay. Okay, let me see how I stop the broadcast. Bye, everybody. Everybody, if just so you know, if you, let me hit this here. My email is suzanne@gabb.co, and gabb.co is my website. If you just want to email me, then go ahead and we will get to know each other. There's 10 more people still on, and I'm going to stay on for 5 more minutes answering questions for anyone who wants to stay a little over. And otherwise, and then I'm going to stop it in 5 minutes. So, I see that there's still people on, so I just want to make sure that I answer as many questions as I can and help people to get on the schedule. So the offers section is where you get all those documents that I mentioned, and also where you can sign up for that 20-minute session with me. And I'm still seeing 11 people on. Thanks so much. Oh, thanks, Steve. You too. Stay safe, everybody. Like this, so I was saying that I moved, my daughter moved here after the COVID. She just completed college. Her college closed in her senior semester. So her college ended not with a graduation, but with me driving up to New York. And then we had to pack her apartment like that, bring her down here. And of course, our heads have been spinning ever since. And now we have finally gotten into a new apartment that's more designed for 2 people to be together. So it has been a whirlwind for us, and staying safe is just so important to me. So I really appreciate it. I want everybody to stay safe right now. And even though we had to do this online, one of the fun things for me has been that I've worked with a lot of people who had always been intending to get online. And then this is the sort of thing that's making people, figure it out. So it was weird for me when the pandemic and the shutdown hit that a bunch of people were reaching out to me, and I was teaching them how to teach by Zoom, specifically yoga teachers were looking for that. And what happened was that I was going through that crazy, weird experience everybody was when the lockdown hit. And then at the same time, I was getting all these excited emails and text messages from yoga teachers who were so thrilled that we were finally able to get online and teach by Zoom, which had been in their minds to do forever. But then, now there was a real deadline, which is like either you don't have a business, or you're going to figure out how to teach by Zoom. So deadlines sort of make you figure it out. But, Zoom, online teaching is what's going to keep us safe. And there's 6 people here. And if you're here because you just don't know how to close the window out, let me know, because I'll be here for 2 more minutes before I stop it. I'm not seeing more questions coming in, so we'll still keep talking for a couple minutes just in case the people who are here have something to say or you're downloading the offers. Let's see, is there anything else that I can talk about? Oh, Startup Week. By the way, Startup Week is one of my favorite things about Chattanooga. I moved here for the startup culture. So if you're wondering, what should I take for Startup Week? First of all, go back and watch Will It Float from last night. I love Will It Float. Watch the pitch events. Pitch events are super, super fun. Aaron Welsh is doing one on a process for starting up a business, and he started up a whole bunch of businesses. Alex Lovage is teaching a course as well. He's excellent and real interesting. It's like the complete opposite of me, and I really like him. So Alex Lovage's course, I would go to that. R&D Financials is teaching a course on financials. They are excellent. I love them. I've actually used their services. All of these people I recommend. Okay, we are at the end and people are dropping off. Thanks so much for coming. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful Halloween. Stay safe, and this recording will be up for a week. Bye. And stop.